This morning I'm after a butterfly. It might be a forlorn task because the butterfly that I'm after spends much of its time at the top of oak trees, and it's the purple emperor butterfly, a majestic butterfly, and one that I've yet to see flying around the treetops of Sherwood Forest. That is my goal for today. Whether we get any footage or not, I have no idea, but to help me in the quest for finding one of Sherwood Forest's most elusive but fantastic butterflies are these tin of sardines. These can be a great attractant to purple emperors, and they'll come down to the ground naturally anyway to drink salts from the ground. So we'll find a suitable site. Butterflies have been seen. There was 3 seen yesterday at 2 sites, one not too far from where I am now, but it's a case of keeping an eye on the top of the trees. I'm a bit undecided on the tactics to employ. We know the butterflies around here. This is the centre tree area, but I don't know whether to wander around and wait until I do see butterflies or try the areas where they were found yesterday. That may well seem to be the best idea, but I could also bait several areas on my way down to where they were seen yesterday. That might be a useful idea, but it's finding somewhere that's quiet. I can't put the bait down anywhere where it's likely to be found by dogs or trampled on by walkers, ridden over by cyclists or by vehicles which do sometimes come through the forest. So it needs to be somewhere quiet. I think we'll try somewhere else. Well, I'm just further along from the last clip that I filmed, and the way that this area has now matured and benefited from having some of the trees taken out from alongside the path is quite remarkable. It really is now an absolute haven for insects. You've got large stands of bramble which is developed now, and this particular stand of bramble on the right of the screen is playing host to a number of ringlets and the odd gatekeeper. A few years ago, when Dillis and I were recording glowworms on here, there was no vegetation whatsoever on the track, and indeed the track had to be relayed a few years ago when some work was done to fell in section S, and the resulting lorries meant that all this track had to be relayed. It's now absolutely fantastic. It's really beautiful, and to be honest, potentially the whole Clipston Old Quarter site has improved enormously for butterflies. If we had violets, we'd have fritillaries almost certainly, but it's not fritillaries we're after, although there has been a report, or several reports, of at least one male silver-washed fritillary in this area and elsewhere in the last couple of days. It'd be nice to see one of those. Well, my plan is to give it a quarter of an hour, half an hour or so in this area. I've put 2 lots of bait down, one just right of screen on the floor and one about 20-30 yards behind me at the side of the track. This is where one purple emperor was seen yesterday, and I would imagine that late mornings are probably best to do this kind of thing. I don't know, it's going to be really very warm afternoon today, and I keep looking towards the tops of the trees. There's quite a few purple hair streak butterflies flitting around, but right colour, wrong size. We'll see if our quarry turns up or even makes a brief treetop appearance. Well, I've had no joy so far looking amongst the treetops and on the ground for adult purple emperors. So I'm just working my way back up to Clipston Old Quarter area to where I put the bait down earlier on, and that's going to be where I make a stand in the hope of seeing one of these elusive butterflies. But while I'm on my way there are two pupa of purple emperors that are known, both found by Nick and Samantha Brownlee, who have done all the work on purple emperor butterfly here in Sherwood Forest. Now, Nick and Samantha both during the winter months and the back end of last year monitored eggs and larvae through all the stages, right through the winter in the L3 stage and right up until all the larvae, about 15 in total if I remember right, were all L5, which is the fifth and final instar. Now, regular viewers to this channel will realise that a lot of the L5 larvae in their pre-pupation stage disappeared from across the Sherwood Forest area. And out of those 15 larvae, only 2 seem to have made it that we know of to pupation. And it's one of those pupa that I'm going to go and have a look at now. And here is that pupa. It's barely hooked on to the silken pad by the cremaster. But I think this is due to hatch tomorrow. The very faintest hints of some markings, the white markings on the wings, can just be seen. These pupa are very different to all the nymphalids and most of the other butterflies and moths that I've ever reared before, in that this is as dark as they get prior to emergence. Most pupa go virtually transparent and paper thin, and the wings can be very clearly seen. In purple emperors, they can barely be seen, and there's very little darkening of the pupa. There's a bit around where the thorax is, which is just around that area there. It darkens a little bit. I think this butterfly will emerge tomorrow, but it's nice that at least one L5 larva, L5 being fifth and final instar larva, has managed to make it through successfully to pupation, whereas so many haven't. Now here is a very unusual and rare sight anywhere in Sherwood Forest. The pinkish flower spikes that you can see just in front and to the right of the screen are all common spotted orchids, and there's a huge floral display of them. Now, orchids in Sherwood Forest are pretty unheard of. There's the occasional orchid. There has been a report of bee orchid at Clipston Court at the side of one of the tracks. And the only orchid that I ever saw was actually a common spotted orchid in section D of Clipston Quarter one year. But this little section here, which holds a memory for me, because this was going back sort of nearly 30 years ago, I once flushed a fawn, a young deer, from the bracken that was in this very spot. Now the bracken's gone and the path was relaid, but it's now resplendent here in this magnificent show of common spotted orchid. Do you know, orchids are truly amazing things, and even though the common spotted orchid is one of those species that, because it has the word common in its name, is largely totally ignored. It just goes down as, oh, it's just common spotted orchid. But really, there are some rarer orchids that have similar flowers, but because they're rarer, they're given more credence. But when you look at these flowers individually, they are quite marvellous. They're like little ladies in crinoline dresses with their arms out and then perhaps wearing a bonnet. They're quite remarkable things, truly beautiful. And of course, they're beautifully coloured and marked, that sort of light pinkish mauve sort of colour and that darker purple in the actual markings. Truly beautiful. And yet, say as an orchid, this is probably classed as the dandelion of orchids. Nobody bothers with it. But you can quite often see it en masse, as it is here. And then, whether it's common or not, it looks truly beautiful. Well, thankfully there's a bit of breeze. It is getting very warm. I'm just having a couple of minutes just stood here in the shade of the trees, but just up there, that's where I've put a bit of bait down in order to try and attract purple emperors down, but a mountain bike has just gone past, so the chances are there'll be nothing there anyway. But what I have seen on the walk up here, there's been two Silver-washed Fritillary. There's an immaculate normal coloured male which is hanging around down towards the Thinghow area. Seems to be covering a large area, but on my walk back where the orchids are that I've just filmed, there's a female there, like an incredibly dark form of the forms Valacina, but there was only minimal markings on the upper surface. It was difficult. At first I thought it was a female purple emperor, one of the known aberrations of purple emperor. It wasn't until I saw the underside that I realised that it was actually Silver-washed Fritillary, but it evaded any chance of video footage or even a still footage. It was, although quite fluttery, it wasn't in the mood for settling for any more than a couple of seconds, so there's no photo or documenting evidence. But two Silver-washed Fritillaries, while everyone will immediately shout, "Release, released," probably aren't here. We're currently in the middle of a very dry spell. It's a dry spell that sort of sneaks up on you, as they often do. Although you might not always get brilliant hot sunshine like we have today and clear blue skies, with a very clear atmosphere today. You can tell it's a clear atmosphere by how far the sky remains blue down towards the horizon. The bluer it is nearer the horizon, the clearer the atmosphere. And today is beautiful. But even if I don't manage to see purple emperor today, one day we'll come across it, no doubt. But a day like today makes for a fantastic walk in the forest and in the woods of Sherwood. It really is an absolutely glorious time to be out. So, still being purple emperorless, I've done down there, and I'm now moving from the crossroads down there along this top path which formed part of our old glowworm survey route many years ago. And then I'm going to turn left off this track and head down towards the Black Pool. Now my thinking is that because purple emperors and other butterflies like to take in minerals and salts and moisture, the only bit of moisture or naturally occurring water is the Black Pool, and that's the only bit really for a long way from around here. So maybe that might be the place to go and have a look and stake out and sit by for a quarter of an hour. Now the Black Pool's nothing spectacular or picturesque, it's just a muddy puddle really, but that muddy puddle might just turn up our quarry. Well, as you can see, or might have gathered, the Black Pool has already dried up. It's possible to actually walk across it. No good now as a water source, although it will still be used by butterflies coming down. They still can take moisture and obtain minerals and salts from the soil. In fact, there's a couple of commas that are hanging around doing just that, but no sign of the emperor here. However, this has to go down as a likely potential spot for a sighting. It's just a shame we've got no water here now, because that really will affect a lot of the wildlife locally. There's hundreds of deer prints, so the deer are coming here in the vain hope of finding some water, but there's none to be had and no sign of any to come. Well, there's just been quite a nice gentle breeze then. It really is very warm and absolutely beautiful still. But it's also a very exciting day personally, because it seems as though the Sherwood Forest area has yet another new coloniser. And this is a coloniser for the first time in probably well over a century, with genuine wild records, and it concerns the Silver-washed Fritillary, a most magnificent butterfly. Last couple of days, Nick and Samantha Brownlee have had sightings of 1 to 2 individuals over towards the Thinghow area and going over towards the Budby South Forest area. The butterfly was seen today, or a Silver-washed Fritillary was seen today. In fact, I was with Nick and Sam at the time, but after I left Nick and Sam, I then had another one, a very dark brown Valacina type form of Silver-washed Fritillary female. But the butterfly was incredibly dark, and there was very little in the way of discernible markings on the upper surface. It avoided any chance of video footage or even a photo. Since then, I've had one here at the Black Pool go through, and there's been a report of another one up towards the centre tree, and Nick and Samantha Brownlee, as I record this, are presently watching potentially 2 butterflies. What exciting times. We've got the Silver-washed Fritillary here now, Purple Emperor, lots of broad-bordered bee hawk moths. This area is becoming something very, very special, even more special than the place it's had in my heart for many years. This gentle breeze brings some welcome respite from the warm temperatures. It really is an absolutely gorgeous time to be out. Also a wonderful time to be out recording the insects of the Sherwood Forest area, and next couple of days I'll certainly be back here again. I intend to see a purple emperor here flying around in Sherwood Forest. But today's all been about really the new arrival, or potential new arrival, which seems to be here, and that's the Silver-washed Fritillary. And I've just had a second, just a few moments ago, just before I started to shoot this scene. So that's 2 that I've had here down near the Black Pool. There's been one up near the centre tree, and one to the side of the centre tree, and then another one down towards Thinghow, and then 2 more that Nick and Samantha Brownlee have been watching. So Silver-washed Fritillaries are here and covering a wide area as well, which doesn't, to me, signify a captive bred release. A number of butterflies in a small area would signify a captive bred release to me, but these are butterflies covering a very large area. There's no reason why these Silver-washed Fritillaries can't be as wild as the purple emperors that are here as well. So it's a walk back down there, and I've got some photos of how this used to be. The days when the pines were here, both sides. It looks very different now, how everything's grown up and the track side's completely changed to what it used to be. So while I walk down there, you can have a look at the photo, and I'm going to walk back up towards the car and home for some much needed refreshment. And on a day like this, it'll be very welcome.